Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. How are you all doing? Hope everybody is doing well. Amorim, desperate for Osimhen. Manchester United sending more scouts to watch Victor Osimhen, a player that has been linked with us heavily for the past month or two. We got an update on that. We got an update. Apparently, more Ineos redundancies all coming tomorrow. We're going to get into that. And also, we have a piece of news following the redundancies as well about how Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford, etc., have a problem with Sir Alex Ferguson and the mentioning of how successful Manchester United were under Sir Alex Ferguson. So we're going to get into that and any other thoughts and opinions and stuff. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the match yesterday and anything that the community or the chat wants to talk about. We're going to talk about it today. Before we get into these stories, please smash the like button because it helps the channel grow, and we need you and your help to fight the algorithm because the algorithm tries to suppress us if we don't get enough likes. So if you want to support us, please smash that like button. It greatly helps the channel out. And if you're new, please subscribe if you enjoy the content. We welcome you to the family and the community. And make sure you hit the notification bell icon so you know when we go live. This will be our last live for the next 2 weeks or so. So, taking a little bit of a vacation. We will be back after. Maybe we'll pop up with a surprise stream somewhere in the next 2 weeks. It'll be a mobile stream off of my mobile phone. So, no promises, but we will see. You never know. You never know. Richard is here. Richard says afternoon. Well, good afternoon to you. It's morning for me. So good morning to anybody. Good afternoon or good night to wherever you're watching. And Richard says, what time is my flight? My flight is at 5:30 p.m. My time. So I got some time from now, but I still got to take care of some things. So let's get into this story real quick. So Sir David Brailsford and his cohorts are apparently sick of hearing about how Manchester United dominated the Premier League for 2 decades under Sir Alex Ferguson. Brailsford feels the achievements of the past are weighing heavily on how United now go about the business of bringing back the glory. This came out, a few hours after United's match yesterday versus Everton. It had mixed reactions. Some people, pissed at David Brailsford for this. The feeling around Ineos is already pretty negative. And pretty much anything that, comes out with their name, people are very much so antagonizing against them and not very happy with anything that is coming out with them. I would say this, we try to be fair on this show. We try to be level-headed as much as possible. Obviously, we're fans and we get in our feelings sometimes. But this topic, to try and be fair, has been discussed and has been said by many people in the fan base for quite some time. Prior to Ineos. I remember there used to be a big debate within the fan base about how, we kind of have to move on from the past. We harp too much on the past. The club even did it where they did a whole bunch of PR, especially with like Ali talking about United DNA and this and that. And, it just never, even if they tried to replicate it, they never replicated it. And it was always too far away anyway. Like many of us always felt like, you kind of ripped that part out as soon as Sir Alex Ferguson left the club. And now you're trying to go back to it too many years down the line. And we kind of lost our way. And football has also moved on. And we never kept up with it. So it was always difficult. I honestly, my opinion on this is that he may actually be right in a certain way. I feel like the wording of it coming from, the Mirror, it sounds more nefarious than maybe it actually is. It's worded in a way where it sounds very, I don't know, like jealousy type, like they want to erase Sir Alex Ferguson, like they don't want anybody to talk about him. I don't necessarily think that's what they actually want. I really think that they're making a claim like we're harping too much on the past, and obviously football has moved on. We have lost our way. It's been 12 years, and we maybe are focusing too much on the past, and we're not focusing enough on the future, and we're not focusing enough on the current times and how to get the team to be successful during these modern times, and how football has moved in a different direction than when we were last successful. So I don't think he's necessarily wrong, but I do understand how people are going to read this and the feelings around Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford and et cetera, and how people are going to um take the context of that, and they're gonna put it in their own mind in the way that these people are saying it, in the way that they perceive Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford, and they they're going to think of it in a certain way that may not necessarily be the way that they are saying it. But Richard says, we always have to move forward, but you can enjoy your past success. And I think that's also important. I mean, you know, if they are actually saying it in a manner of, we can never talk about Sir Alex Ferguson anymore, we should stop talking about it, we should stop looking at it, we shouldn't even, you know, look back at those days and reminisce and have some good feelings about it, then I think they're absolutely completely lost in what they're doing. They don't understand the club. They don't understand the fans. You know, and many people and many fans still talk about and still, you know, they still harp back to those days because those were the days of happiness. Those were the days of when we were successful. And for some people, that's all they have left for this club at this current moment in time. There's not much or anything at all to enjoy about the current Manchester United team. There hasn't been much success over the last 12 years. So I think if they're saying it in a more nefarious way, then they are completely lost in the plot. And they are completely disconnected from the fans. And many people argue that because the things that they have been doing, raising ticket prices, you know, cutting money to charities and et cetera, and, you know, the sacking of many people from within the club, already feels very un-Man United to people. People would say that these things would never happen, and they never happened on the Sir Alex Ferguson and that era and period of time. And, you know, it makes sense as to why they will be angry at this sort of thing. But, you know, we try to be fair, and the fan base has had this discussion in the past about this, and we've discussed it between ourselves. And now that it's coming from Ineos, I think some people out there are going to feel very differently about this. They're going to be very vehemently against this sort of news story that's come out. But you know, I think Richard makes an important point that, you know, we always have to move forward, but you can enjoy your past success. And there's always a balance in life. There's a balance to everything. There's a yin and a yang, and I think we have to find that balance. I do think that maybe sometimes we do focus way too much on what we were doing 12 plus years ago, and that we don't actually live in the current situation in the current time that Manchester United is in. And maybe for the current situation and where we are and how our club is and the dynamic of the team, maybe we do maybe we do demand excessively too much for where we find ourselves right now, because maybe we do have to take smaller steps to get to where we actually want. Now, when I say those things, I'm not saying you have to eliminate your I'm not saying you have to eliminate your standards. I'm not saying you have to eliminate, you know, what you expect from Manchester United, but maybe we have to be a little bit more level-headed at times about things and about the current situation and how actually far away we are from where we want to be to where we are right now. And, you know, some of the pressure, the added pressure might be just too much of a big leap to take us to where we demand to be, and we must take smaller steps to get there. Um, so, but the other update that came surrounding Ineos that I want to get to and talk about is that let me get to this here, is that apparently this came out 3 hours ago, and it also came from the Mirror, saying just in, Ineos will announce another round of redundancies at Manchester United on Monday, while Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford are keen to forget about the club's past achievements. So it was kind of a little bit of a follow-up with some added information. Obviously, you know, this is going to incite more anger. People are not happy with the redundancies. Many people pointing out that, you know, you're sacking regular people, and regular people are losing their jobs and their livelihood because you're trying to cover the Glazers' ass with the bad business, the debt that they've put Manchester United in, and that these things shouldn't necessarily be happening because there's other people like the Glazers, and even the players that are earning a ridiculous high wage, that are not losing their jobs or not suffering from the decisions that they've made, and the people that live regular lives or regular jobs that depend on their job at Manchester United are being sacked to in the effort of to save money and to straighten out the finances at Manchester United. And I get that, I do, and it just, you know, it's a very difficult situation. I understand the people, and I think they're right. I you know, I don't disagree with them that, you know, the Glazers have done this. It is their fault. They are the ones that should be reeling from the repercussions, and yet again they've snaked their way into a position where they still own the club. They're still going to make money off of it. You know, the business that they've done at Manchester United is absolutely evil, and they will face no repercussions whatsoever. They've brought in Ineos to kind of save them, and in the meantime, you know, players like Casemiro are still here earning 350,000 a week, and you know, they're still taking money, and they're gonna take money whenever they can. And regular people are going to lose their jobs, and even the fans are ones that have to suffer as well. The people that are, you know, the ones that are dedicated, that we are there supporting Manchester United week in, week out, and we're in 15th place, and you know, fans have to pay higher ticket prices. So, you know, it is just it is a bad situation. I do think that maybe at this current moment in time, I understand people say that the Glazers should be the ones paying down the debt, and you know, these things shouldn't be happening. But I also think we have to be real about the situation. I mean, the Glazers aren't going anywhere as of right now. You know, Ineos aren't going to go anywhere. They are in charge. You know, we can protest, we can try and force some change, but until people want to stand up and actually start moving and doing these things, you know, the Glazers aren't going to pay the debt down with their own money. It's never going to happen. Ineos isn't going to do it either. There's multiple reasons for that. One, they only own about 27% of the club. And also, apparently coming out the other day, there is a clause in the deal that the Ineos and the Glazers signed that the Glazers can actually remove Ineos as an owner if they choose to sell the club at a certain point. I believe it's sometime in the next few months. So in the next few months, if somebody comes and decides that they want to buy Manchester United outright and do a full sale, the Glazers have the option to sell the club in full, which would include Ineos shares, and Ineos cannot grandstand. They cannot refuse to stay on. Glazers have full control over that, and obviously Ineos would get paid out for the shares that they own, but it's not really the situation that people might have thought it was, where somebody would have to come in, buy the Glazers percentage, which is about 60-something percent, and then they would have to do a separate deal for Ineos and try and buy out their 27%. And Ineos could refuse and actually just stay on. There's actually a clause in the deal that the Glazers have full right to fully sail the club. Ineos won't have a say, and Ineos would be out as well as the Glazers. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, considering the fact that they are doing this, Old Trafford regeneration plan. I think they understand the amount of money that's involved in that. I think they understand the amount of money that they're set to make from that sort of thing, especially the fact that the Glazers aren't going to be putting any of their own money into this. They're going to be using everybody else's money like they've done multiple times in multiple different, aspects, whether it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or Manchester United. They've done it multiple times. They've always done it. It's one of their expertises. They're very good at doing that, using other people's money. So I don't think that option is going to be exercised, but I also think at the same time that it is limiting Ineos from putting in maybe more money, because why would you take that chance of investing all that money and you may eventually get kicked out without you having any power or any say over to saying, well, we put in 500 million and now I'm being forced out. Yes, I'm being bought out, but we put in this money and we're not going to get that back. That was reinvested into the club, and all we're going to do is get paid out for the shares that we own. So maybe that's why they're a little bit hesitant to put in more money and, stuff like that. But, listen, fans don't like this, but there is a way. There is a way that Manchester United can technically recover their financial aspect. Fans aren't going to like it. I don't necessarily like it, but I do understand it. We still do make a certain amount of money. The club, and there was always an argument about this, the club would always be self-sufficient. We make a lot of money. We've made a lot of money. Now we make a little bit less money, or a lot less money, because we're not in Champions League. We're actually in 15th. We're in Europa for now, but we've been losing money because of performances on the pitch. We're losing money from sponsors such as Adidas or others. Even though they are trying to work on commercial deals, we have a deal that we did with Heineken, so that's a new sponsorship somewhere. I forgot when they did it, but they did do it recently. And, there is a way to do it. Now, I think, I don't know how accurate, or not how accurate, but how up to date this is. But I was looking into some of the financials, and I was wondering if I could get some type of a total of so far what Ineos has done with all the cuts and costs and stuff like that and trying to save, how much money they've actually saved, Manchester United so far. And I believe the figure was in the, I believe it was about 7 million so far. I don't know how updated that is, because I don't know from the time period that they pulled this money in, but the club does find itself in a very bad situation. We just paid about 34 million in interest repayment on the debt. It's not even debt repayment. It's payment on the interest of the debt, and we paid it for a few months. We paid 34 million. So I think the next one that's going to come out, it's probably going to be something similar to that, which means we're going to be spending around maybe 60 million a year in paying just the interest. And this is the problem that fans have with these cuts that Ineos are doing, because people have to suffer because the Glazers have loaded the club onto debt, and we are wasting 60 million a year that we could be using towards transfers, that we could be using towards building a better and new squad and improving the situation of Ruben Amorim and on the playing field, and maybe getting more money in. And that route would be better than hiking ticket prices on fans, and cutting jobs and making people lose jobs. Now, Ineos have the deal was that they invest $300 million, which is 234.2 million pounds for infrastructure. And they did that, and the redundancies that they made already. The club made 250 employees redundant. More are coming. We're not sure exactly how much, but we'll get it. We'll get how many when they do it. With accounts, and this was done in July 2024, and the accounts were showing a cost of 8.6 million for these redundancies, likely including severance packages. Manchester United spent 8.6 million on redundancies, assuming an average annual salary of about 40,000 per employee. The annual savings from these redundancies would be over an 8-month period. It translates somewhere to about 6.6 million pounds. So it's not a lot of money, but it is some money. But it's kind of next to nothing, and I think this is the bigger issue that Manchester United have. We are trying to do cost saving measures, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with that when you need to do it. But the problem is that the amount of debt we're in, the amount of financial problems we are in, cutting 250 jobs, paying them severance packages, and saving about 7 million. The 7 million isn't going to change the situation. Now, maybe over the long term, eventually it will, but fans don't really have patience for this, and also fans see the bigger problems. And I think the club is also aware of this. This is why they were looking to sell Alejandro Garnacho, and there was talks about selling Kobe Mainoo, because unfortunately, as much as we don't like it and we hate it, that is the only big change that we can really do, or one of the few. One of the other things we could do is bring in, one of the other things we could do is bring in maybe some commercial deals, maybe some type of a sponsor on a kit or our seats at the stadium at Old Trafford or something like that can bring in some help. But the only thing that's really going to allow us to really spend and try and build the squad is the selling of players. Ruben Amorim has said it, and it's the only one that generates a lot of money. So again, I don't want to sell Kobe Mainoo. I don't want to sell Garnacho. I'm not going to advocate for it. It's not a good thing. But I just don't see, with the current setup that we have and the current situation that we have, where are we going to get the money to do what we need to do? We need to move players on. We need to free up some funds. So, they also did salary reductions for people like Brian Robson, Dennis Irwin, Andy Cole, and their ambassador roles. And these are assumptions because we don't know exactly how much they make. But if they were earning an average of around 300,000 annually, and they got a 50% reduction, over an 8-month period, you're saving about 300,000 pounds. That's literally peanuts. So these things aren't really necessarily helping us. Yes, in a very small margin, but it's not to the effect. And this is why fans have a problem with this, because they're like, you guys created this mess, and now you're doing penny pinching exercises that actually isn't going to necessarily, it's not going to make a big difference for us in the summer for the things that we have to do. Even cutting the charity fund. So, adding all the things that they've done so far, and not including the money from the increased ticket sale prices, because I think you have to wait till a period amount of time to bring that in. We've saved around 7 million pounds from since they started doing these cuts to now. Which is literally nothing. What can we do with 7 million pounds? We can't even get, we can't even get Tell on loan, because Tell was 8 million. So we didn't even make enough money to get Tell on loan by doing that. Our current debt, as of recent reports, is approximately 650 million, following 120 million reduction from the revolving credit facility after Ratcliffe's investment in March 2024. Earlier figures showed the debt exceeded 1 billion, including gross debt revolving credit, and transfer payment, but post-Ratcliffe adjustments brought it down to this level. So there is an argument there to be made that, you know, the things that Ratcliffe is doing is maybe bringing down the debt, which will eventually allow us to spend a little bit more money and remove some of the financial shackles that we have. You know, I was trying to search how can you by doing these things, because the problem with this is they're doing these things and they're not giving us a plan. They're not giving us they're not giving us a pathway. They're not giving us a direction in what they're planning to do. They're just making these cuts and they're saying it's needed. But where is the roadmap? Where is the plan? Where is the communication with the fans? Where is it like you're telling us that, listen, we may have to do things like this, and over the next 3 to 4 years, we expect to, you know, reduce this amount or save this amount or have this amount so that we can turn the financials around. So I did a little bit of searching myself, and I don't know how accurate this is, but this is probably the best thing that we've gotten, considering they don't want to tell us anything. So I was wondering, the things that they are doing, if you do it, you know, over a next 5-year period, can you actually clear the debt or a lot of the debt in this way over the next 5 years? And how much can you actually clear from it? So, in the way that they are doing things, to clear the 650 million, we have to pay about 150 million per year over the next 5 years. To do this, Manchester United needs to ensure that cash flow covers this amount. The operating cash flow for the last season was around 118 million, with additional cash from player sales at 37 million, totaling 155 million, which is close to the required amount. However, interest payments of about 35 million reduced the net cash available. So, to kind of translate that into a little bit more English, we can kind of do it. The problem is that we are kind of in a revolving door where we still need to go and buy players, which is going to add to the debt, because we need to, when we buy players, we pay it off, and it's kind of on credit, and it's over a certain amount of years. So you're always going to add. Even if you're taking away, you're still adding. And then also on top of that, we also are still paying a high amount on the interest on the debt. So while we may be reducing, we're still paying a lot. So it's actually being negated. So we're not doing as much as we can actually do, which is a problem, because we're when you read into it, we're kind of stuck in this revolving door. We're kind of going around circles, even if we're trying. And even if we're having some success, that success is being negated by the bad things that the Glazers have done over their time here. Now, I did ask, and this is from AI, but it's a very good AI, and it pulled a lot of information. Like, I'm talking about a lot of information, a lot of credible information from Manchester United putting out their finances to the Times, credible places. So I wanted to know, what is the best route that involves maximizing the cash flow, cash inflows, and minimizing outflows? One of the things would be to increase the revenue, which is enhance matchday revenue by improving stadium facilities and increasing ticket prices. Now, fans don't want that, but if you're asking just a general question of how you do it, this is the answers it gives you. Boost commercial revenue through new sponsorships, and aim for higher broadcasting revenue by qualifying for the Champions League, which would increase the revenue by tens of millions for Manchester United. Reduce operating expenses, continue cost cutting, including further redundancies, which they are planning over 100, and optimize contracts, potentially saving an additional 5 million annually based on the current trends. Generate cash from player sales, target selling high value players not essential to the team, aiming for 30 million to 50 million annually, as seen with recent sales generating 37 million. You can also refinance the debt, negotiate lower interest rates to reduce an annual payments, potentially freeing up cash for principal repayment. Now that one's an issue because the Glazers have already done that multiple times. I don't think they want to do it anymore. I don't know how that affects their money that goes into their pocket, so they may not want to do that. But yeah, these are all things that maybe Manchester United might be able to do going forward. Bin Guy is here. Bin Guy says, cannot have two kings under the sun. That's the way I see it. Rich people move their capitals to the city at the moment. In the past, they all in with Man United. In other words, politics. Well, yeah. And Bin Guy says, domestic riches with American riches equals that's us versus European riches with Middle East riches equals city. I mean, I do think that, you know, I don't like this situation that we have. I wasn't for it. I never supported it. I wanted a full sale of the club. I wanted completely new owners. I wanted a completely fresh start. We didn't get it. And I tried to give Ineos the benefit of the doubt, and I was hoping that Ineos will not be Glazers 2.0, that they were different, that they will do things differently. Because if they didn't, it just means that we're screwed. We're screwed, and things won't improve. And I desperately want to change. I wanted things to be different. I even do believe that even if they have cared, they can put Manchester United in a position where we were, you know, we might not be 100% perfect, but we were better than what happened over the past 12 years. But there's just no guarantee that this is going to work. I understand what they're doing business-wise. I don't think they're going to get the time to do it. You know, the fans are rightfully out of patience. I think we've been patient. We've for over 12 years. And I think we're at a period where there is no patience left for fans. So I don't think Ineos are going to get the opportunity to really do these things. And also, fans highly disagree with it. And I don't argue with those fans. And I get, you know, their perspective. So, you know, it's okay for them to feel the way they feel. And if they don't want to accept this, they have every right not to accept this. But this is the situation we find ourselves in. And I think that, you know, I think they might be able to do it. But a lot of the things that they're going to have to do to get the club to use its own money to sort itself out, we are not going to like it. I mean, some of the things that I read off there, they do not agree. They do not sit well with the fans. Doing more redundancies. Hold on. You know, by increasing the revenue, by increasing ticket prices, fans are not going to be for that. We're here for boosting the commercial revenue through new sponsorships. We want them to do that. They haven't done that yet. Trying to get higher broadcasting revenue by qualifying for the Champions League. Well, that's a problem in itself, because I think many of us would say to qualify for the Champions League, we need to spend money, which adds more to the debt, because we need to spend money that we don't actually have right now to get higher quality players and a better squad, and then to qualify for the Champions League. So that is a whole problem and issue in itself. You know, the other thing it mentioned was reduce operating costs, which is continued to cutting for the redundancies, which is firing and sacking more regular people from their jobs. No, you know, fans aren't going to like that, and they're not going to agree with that. The optimizing of contracts, we are here for that. We've been saying that these players get paid too much money, and it's something that they've already started with the new signings. They're not paying them excessive money, and they're looking to move on these players with excessively high contracts, like Casemiro, like Rashford. They've done it with Sancho as well, et cetera, et cetera. So, and you can save a ton of money from that. So we'll be there for that. But the other thing is selling high value players not essential to the team. But who determines who is not essential to the team? Because there are people that want Mainu and want Garnacho to stay, and who's determining? Is it Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Is it Sir David Brailsford? Is it Ruben Amorim that are going to determine that, you know, Kobe Mainu is not essential to our team, even though we believe he is, and they can sell him for, you know, 50, 60 million, 70 million. It's a problem. It is an issue. And I think that's where we're going to have a big disagreement, because I do think when we get to the summer, and Amorim has already hinted at it, that we have to sell to buy. And I just have this feeling that there's going to be a deal or two where we're going to sell somebody that is absolutely going to ignite the fan base into a fury. And this is the situation we find ourselves in, and maybe that's what it takes for more fans to get more angry and actually start doing some large protesting movements. It's bubbling on the surface. I want it to happen because I don't want the Glazers here. I want them gone, as I think everybody else. But that movement kind of died when Ineos came in and there was the sale. And I sort of felt like the fan base felt very defeated. And kind of gave up. And I'm waiting for the fan base to rise back up again because I think it's there. I think it's there. And it is. You know, there's a protest for the Arsenal match on March 9th. It's supposed to be a big one. They're trying to empty Old Trafford. Now, I think they should, you know, I don't think that they should be going in the stadium. I think the stadium should be empty before kickoff. Because it just seems, it's even the perspective. I know, I understand that there's many season ticket holders out there that they've already paid, and so the Glazers already have the money from that, but it just sends a bigger PR message if you start the match and the stadium is already empty. It seems more stupid if everybody is in the stadium already and then you leave, because even the people that don't have the season tickets, you then therefore you already paid. I mean, they already have the tickets, but it's a thing of optics, really. I know it doesn't make a big difference in terms of the money, but it's a different type of optic. If the stadium is packed and you walk out, a lot of people will be like, yeah, that's dumb because you already went in there, whatever. But if it starts empty, it's just going to feel different. It's going to look different. And it's going to be talked about different. So, Richard says, we all hoped and wanted something better. Yeah. Ben Guy says, better start appealing to alternative market rich people from Japan, Korea, and China. All they have is nothing but big money. To get favoritism calls from VAR equals that also costs money. Want to challenge with VAR, then pay up. Yeah. So, but let's move on from this story because there was another story that I wanted to get into. And this story came out yesterday after the match as well. It came out late, but apparently Manchester United will send observers to watch Victor Osimhen for the rest of his games this season and follow his performances in details. The observers will closely monitor Osimhen's on-field performance as well as his behavior off-field and report back to Manchester United. Now, that last part is pretty interesting, actually, because I don't think we've ever heard something like that. Obviously, you know, we send scouts to watch tons of people. We have a large scouting network, and we're always watching their on-field thing. That last little detail that we're gonna be monitoring his behavior off the field. I find it a little bit interesting. Are we gonna have somebody shadowing him? So, like, if he goes out, or is somebody going to be following him and walking around like a spy or something? You know, I don't necessarily know how they intend to do that, to monitor his behavior off the field. Like, you know, are they going to be following him around places? Like if he goes to the club or something like that, or if he goes out somewhere. Is there going to be somebody spying on him at all times? It seems very weird. I don't know if they're actually going to do it. I like the concept of it in terms of when we're going to buy a player and we're identifying them if they're the correct profile and fit, we should be not only looking at their on-field performances and how they handle themselves on the pitch, but also what is their life like off of football? Or do they have a lot of baggage? Are they a troublemaker? Do they have problems? You know, those things are important as well. So, you know, right now, Osimhen, you know, who has good strength and athleticism, he earns almost about 100,000 euros a week. And his contract is expiring in June 2026. So, you know, there is maybe a deal to be made. We have been linked heavily with him. I will point this out, though, as well, is that, you know, the links to the links to Gaio Perez has kind of quieted down, and Osimhen has picked up very heavily. So I think we're only going to get one of these guys. Many people kind of wanted Gaio Perez. Maybe they've decided to move away from that and go for Osimhen. But Osimhen has been linked heavily with us over the past month or two. And the story doesn't seem to go away. It seems sort of similar to Olise when Ineos first took over, where we were getting a lot of news about Olise, and it was around February, and it continued up until the summer, but Olise never came to us. He ended up going to Bayern Munich, and part of the problem of that is that we didn't have the money necessarily ready to go. And we had to wait, and Olise was not waiting for nobody. And Olise ended up going to Bayern because Bayern wanted him, and Bayern made an offer immediately, and so we missed out on that. And I have a similar problem that might happen. I mean, it seems very likely that we are very interested in Osimhen, that he is one of the top targets. We need a striker like him. If it's not him, Gaio Perez, I would love to get somebody like Isaac, but obviously that's never going to happen because Newcastle would ask for, ridiculous amounts of money. And we don't have that money. And we can't even afford to spend money like that on one player anyway. So my problem is that I know that we are not the only club that wants Osimhen. PSG is one as well. And I think there's a couple others. And when the transfer market opens, if we have to sell to buy, that might take us a month. It might take us a month and a half to kind of get the money, which means that we have to pretty much convince Osimhen to want to join us, but then also have to wait for us with, there's no 100% guarantee that we're going to be able to do a deal like that. But he would have to wait on us for us to get the money, to then make the offer to Napoli, and then we have to agree the deal with Napoli. And what happens if we miss out on Osimhen? Because what if he doesn't want to wait? What if he wants, players don't like, they don't like to be in the unknown. They want their situation dealt with. They want to know what team they're going to be on. They want to sort the situation out, and they want to get to work as quickly as possible. They don't want to stick around waiting in limbo, wondering, what their future is about and not knowing what's going to happen. So what if we miss out on Osimhen because we don't have money at the current time? I think it's a real issue that can arise. So Ray is here as well. And Richard says it's a mess. No, it is definitely a mess. I mean, our situation, as the weeks keep going on, we keep getting more and more information about how much of a mess it actually is. So, it's, again, I think this summer is going to be absolutely a huge determining factor for Ineos, and for the club. It's either going to cause the fans to support them, or it's going to cause more of the fans to feel alienated and go against Ineos. And I think whether they like it or not, and obviously they're going to ask for more time, and they're going to beg for more time. I honestly think this is one that it is a big determining factor for them, because I can see that if we don't do good business, if they do things that the fans aren't going to be happy with, like the sale of a Garnacho or a Meno or both, or some players that we don't want to be sold, that we don't think should be sold, and they do sell them, and we miss out on some players, or we don't get the players that we necessarily want. I think if the summer window is a failure, I think things are going to explode from there. And they don't want that. And Ray says, mess, okay, we need to buy and have no money. Well, we were just talking about that. And the current situation is that we kind of do have money, we kind of don't. We're in a revolving door of, we are finding ways to generate money. There are ways to generate some more money that they haven't taken, like doing some sponsorship deals that they can get money in from the sponsors and bring it into the club and use that money to to spend on transfers. And one of the ways, obviously, is to also sell players, and you can generate money from there and reinvest it. But part of the problem is, we are paying about 30 million in interest. And it's not a year. We just paid 34 million in interest over whatever how many months it's been. So that wasn't even for a full year. We're gonna have to make another payment before the end of this year. So we're paying anywhere for 60 million. That money we could be using for transfers. We're also gonna lose money, unless we win the Europa League, but we're gonna lose money by not being in the Champions League for sure. And if we're not in Europe, which is, unless we win the Europa League, or the FA Cup, we'll lose European money totally, which is definitely going to hurt us. So we'll lose money there. We'll have to pay money on the debt, the interest, and any money that we do generate by cutting costs and doing things like that. Not only are we have to pay the interest and we're going to lose extra money, but then we do have to go buy players. And when we buy players, we're actually adding more money to the debt because we don't pay the fees upright. We spread it over 5 years, which is, you're technically buying something on a credit card, which is technically just adding the money to your debt. So we keep finding ourselves in a revolving door. Now, I did go over that they are doing something where it is kind of balancing out. If Manchester United want to use their own money to pay the debt off in a 5-year period, we have to pay about 150 million per year. Now, to do that, United has to ensure the cash flow covers the amount. And the operating cash flow from last season was around 118 million. So we're not far from covering the 150 million in terms of the cash flow, because we're right around there. We had additional cash from player sales, which was about 37 million, which was totaling in the 155 million. So we actually hit the mark to be able to pay the 150 million that we need to pay per year if we wanted to get rid of it over a 5-year period. The issue with that is that we had to pay 35 million in interest payments, which reduced the net cash available. We then also we also then bought players and added more to the debt. So you see the issue we have there. We actually are right there where we can kind of cover our debt and pay it down, which would lower the interest payments, the amount of interest that we're paying. But we can't actually pay it 150 million. We probably have to pay less, which is going to take more time, and we can't do it in 5 years. It would take longer because we still have to buy players. We still have to improve the squad, and we still have to make interest payments. So we're losing money, and it's cutting into the amount of money we can level the club out. So Ray says we need Elon Musk to take over. Well, yeah, that would be nice. But Elon's got a lot on his plate right now, and also Elon is one that there has to be a cause for it, like, because the amount of money the Glazers want for the club, it's overvalued, it's overpriced. So somebody really, 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 really has to be a Manchester United fan, like really, really wants to buy the club. Like, it would have to be somebody like me or you, with Elon's money. The problem with Elon is that he won't do it unless he sees a cause of the greater good, or probably the planet. He did it with X. He completely overpaid for it, and he did it because he sees it as a platform for free speech, and he thought it was being suppressed. So he, in his mind, completely overspending and overpaying was for the benefit of the world. But I don't think he'll do it for this. We're not that lucky. So, but there's some other news that came in. It's Casemiro's birthday. He turns 33, which that number makes me not feel great, and that we need to move him on because sooner or later he'll be 34. And he's too old and he doesn't have legs. So, Marcus Rashford was sent to the bench yesterday, but did come on for Aston Villa. Did a 45-minute cameo. He got 2 assists yesterday after coming on and played pretty decently well. So that's good news that, we need him to perform. We need him to generate some interest in him. He's one of the players that we can move on. And I think he's one of those players that we mentioned that might be considered high value, but is in excess to the club, and that we can move on. And if we could get a decent transfer fee for him, plus removing his 300,000 a week wage, that's a lot of money saved, and that money that we can use to buy some players for Ruben Amorim in January, in the summer, in June. So he's one of those players. We need him to perform. Anthony is another player that we need, and we need him to perform. So there was also another story that came out from Give Me Sport saying that Manchester United have set their sights on Castello Luqueba. I believe he's a defender. Actually, I'm not sure. Let me look it up. What position does he play? Center. He is a center back. So he's a center back. So Manchester United are interested, or have set their sights on Castello Luqueba, who is young, exciting prospect. He's good. The problem is that he has a 75 million pound release clause, which may complicate matters for the Red Devils. Says Give Me Sport. You think? We just talked about how we're tight for cash and we have no money, and I just don't see how Manchester United are going to be able to do deals like this. He's 20 years old. Um, he's rapidly developed. He's doing good performances in the Champions League, where he moved from Lyon in 2023. He's a 75 million release clause, a common feature in modern football. And Manchester United's interest aligns with their strategy to target young, promising talents, as seen in previous links to players like Todibo and Antonio Silva from Benfica, and their need to bolster the defense. Now, I just don't think we'll be able to do this deal, but we need players like this, and this is the problem that we have, that we're not going to be able to do these sorts of deals. It's just not possible. How are we going to spend 75 million on one center back when we probably need 2 center backs? Lindelof's contract is up. Johnny Evans is going to be out as well. Not that they've featured or played, but it's just a matter of squad depth, and we're not going to have that squad depth, which is why we need to do things. Breaking news from a French journalist. His name is Jacques Talbot, saying apparently Paul Pogba has held talks with Ruben Amorim. Manchester United would be ready to offer him a renewable 1-year contract. The club would like to negotiate a low salary with many bonuses. So I don't know. I mean, this is where we're at. This is how desperate we are, that we are seriously considering bringing back Paul Pogba on a 1-year renewable contract. Trying to give him a low salary, a player that hasn't played in about 2 years, because we just don't have the depth. And I don't know if he has the legs, and I don't know how much it's going to help us, but I do understand the concerns at this point. I mean, you look at the bench, and it's all youth products, and I really do think, as much as we want the youth to play, because we are frustrated with the first team, I still think that there's too many of them on that bench that are just not ready. They are just not ready. And I think Amorim knows that, and I think that's why he refuses to play them, and refuses to put them in. I think Cheeto is probably the one that is the closest to being ready, which is why he's getting minutes. But I think he's very, very reluctant to put on these other kids. They've been watching the development. They watched them in matches, and whether it's the under 18s or the under 21s. They've seen them in training with against first team players, and I just really do think that he believes that after evaluating them, that they just are not ready, and he is very reluctant to throw them in there, and because he feels like they're going to get absolutely obliterated on the pitch, they're not going to be able to hold their own, and it's not good for the development. So he's looking out for them because he has a responsibility. Yes, he needs to try and fix the first team, and he needs to try and get results, and he needs to try and change things, but you can't do that at the expense of destroying an 18-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid, and destroy the development and destroy their future. So I don't know anymore. If they do it, all I would ask for is do something like that where it's a 1-year contract. And don't be fucking stupid. Don't give him a high salary. Don't pay him a lot of money. Give him a low. If he really wants it, he'll take it. He'll take whatever we give him. And that's my thing. If he's gonna be a greedy mercenary bastard, then you can, continue doing what you're doing, Paul Pogba. But if you really want it, then you'll take whatever we give you. And if we give you, 80,000 a week, and we give you a 1-year deal, and you really, really want it, then take it. And I mean, I don't know. I don't really want it to happen, but I understand. I mean, you look at the coverage we have, you look at the depth we have, you look at the squad that we currently have, and we are on our knees. We are on our knees. And I'm like Richard, I don't really want Pogba back. I don't. And Ray says we need a big miracle. I mean, big miracle for this season, not going to happen. We're drowning. We're drowning. We're looking at Paul Pogba to try and help us. No other club is even no other club that I think that he wants in terms of stature. There might be some very small clubs out there, but there's like no other clubs that actually are even willing to give him a contract, to even bring him into the squad. And we are seriously considering this. He's been linked with us for 2 months now. And he's still being linked with us. So, and Rob Dawson, ESPN, has given us some breaking news as well, saying that apparently Nasur Mazarari is due to undergo tests today before a decision is made on his participation in Wednesday's match. So apparently Maz is now a game time decision as well, which is just adding on to the problems at Manchester United. He is of concern. He has struggled with some type of fitness. He had struggled with injuries, fitnesses prior to coming to Manchester United as well. And there has been times this season where his status has been of concern, where he's come off early from matches. He doesn't start matches because he has knocks here and there. I think I think he does have some type of injury problems, and we've been very cautious with him because of it. And it's just another concern, because if Maz gets injured now, we are so screwed. I mean, he's already playing center back to cover the position because we lack the depth there. And all we have then is Maguire, De Ligt, and Euro. Lindelof will be there, but Lindelof hasn't featured. Lindelof hasn't played, and Lindelof will be the only backup we have, other than if we go and find a random youth player and stick him in there. But Johnny Evans is MIA. I don't know what's up with him, and I don't know how well he would be able to play in this system and this formation anyway. So again, we are on our knees. We are on our knees, and the situation keeps getting worse. And I think it's going to keep getting worse as we keep going on. Players are playing. The amount of games are mounting on the players. We already lost 2 players for the rest of the season, 2 important players. We lost Martinez. We lost Diallo. We've lost Mano for weeks and months. Mount and Shaw have been injured for however long, and there's no reliance on them in any way. And we can't really afford to lose anybody else. And I just feared that we are going to lose another 1 or 2 important players, because there's less rotation now. There's less availability. They're going to have to play more minutes. And if you play more minutes, especially somebody like Maz, you're running the risk of them getting more seriously injured. And if Maz gets seriously injured and he's out for the next 3 months, well, he's out for the rest of the season, and we're totally screwed. So, the situation just keeps deepening. It's actually not improving. It just keeps getting better as we keep going along. And I think this is why Ruben Amorim made the statement yesterday that we're kind of just trying to survive to the end of the season, because we are in a very, very bad position. and there's nothing that seems like it's gonna change it. You know, Ray's asking for a miracle, and I just don't even think that there's a miracle to be had. There is just no miracle. You know, they're saying that Maz picked up a knee injury yesterday at Goodison Park, and that's what he's set to undergo further tests today before a decision is made on whether he can play against Ipswich this Wednesday. So he might be out of the match on Wednesday, which means that we're gonna have to line up Maguire, Delit, and Euro with Victor Lindelof as the only depth and substitute in the center back spot, which is also, you know, just think about it. Maguire is a little bit, he's not injury prone, but he suffers from injuries. He's old. He's 30. He's had a few injuries here and there where he's missed a few weeks. He's missed a few games. Delit is another one where we were playing Delit and Delit was being taken off at 60, 70 minutes for fitness and concerns. And Delit has had some injury problems as well in the past. You know, what happens if we lose Maz and we're playing Euro, Delit, and Maguire, and we lose one of Delit and Maguire, or we lose both, and we just have Euro and Lindelof. You know, what are we gonna do? We're gonna be totally screwed. So I think, you know, everybody keeps thinking that it literally can't get worse than this, and it can't. It literally can, because we can lose another 3 or 4 players to injuries, and we are at the bottom of the barrel, drowning, absolutely drowning. So yeah, this it just keeps getting worse, doesn't it? Just looking to see if there's any other news. Um, Now my only thing and my only hope, barring that the fact that you know, the squad is decimated in terms of options. I would say this, and I kind of forgot to mention it yesterday, but here's the thing. When I said the players looked low, we said they looked low on confidence. We said that the players seemed very jaded, especially when it comes to the Premier League. It seems like we're going into matches, that going into the matches, the mentality, like there's almost nothing to play for. We're 15th. We're not going to get top 6. We're not going to get top 4. And they're going into these matches kind of going through the motions, low on confidence, low in mentality. And I specifically said the Premier League because since Amorim has come in, what one of the positives that he's done is that he has turned around our fortunes in the Europa League. We were very low in the table. We finished in the top 8. We avoided playing 2 extra matches, and we qualified in a good position from where we started off, and that was a good thing that he did. And I kind of feel like even the players, they view the Europa League, it's like a fresh competition. It's like a new competition. It's something that there's actually something to fight for, and therefore I feel like that's why we're seeing such a huge difference in the performances and the results that we're doing in Europe compared to the league. I feel like when they go to play a league match, they have there's they just come with that mentality of like the league is dead. So like they're not up for it. But when they go into the Europa League, they realize that number one, we can get ourselves into Europe in here. This is important. And it's like a different perspective. So we get a better performance, we get better results in Europe than we are in the Premier League. And I think that's why you see such a difference. So many people still saying that they think that we're gonna win the Europa League. I think we'll be in it and we compete. I think every time we play in the Europa League, we see better and different performances than we're seeing in the Premier League right now. I don't know if we'll be able to win it because of the squad depth. I just don't know if we'll be able to survive it. But Richard's saying that we may have to use Heaven. Yeah, we may do. I kind of forgot that we signed him. But yeah. And Ray says Pogba too slow for the game, and I think he is. I think he is. I think he was too slow when he was already here, and now that he's older and that he hasn't played, I think he's too slow, which is why I don't really think it's going to help us too much. But in terms of having um, just a body, an experienced player, and a body to fill a role, a position in the squad, um, that's maybe what they're looking for. I mean, but I view it in the same terms of how I view Ericsson and how I view Casemiro. Just too old, not enough legs to provide what we need for the Prem and for the system itself. So, he says Pogba. That's how Man United became a sad joke. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just not good. So, it's just a very bad um situation that we find ourselves in. The Newcastle Forest game was crazy. Forest was winning 1-0, then Newcastle was winning 4-1, and then apparently the match is finished 4-3. So goal thrilling match there to start us off. And obviously there's City versus Liverpool. Erling Haaland is not involved in the squad. He has not made it. Um, you know, um fitness wise. So Man City are without Erling Haaland. And I find that interesting because I actually think that Haaland might be one of their biggest problems because of the way they've adjusted their play to fit him. So I'm interested to see how they're going to play without Haaland. Not that they necessarily have somebody to fit that spot, but um, it'll be interesting because if Manchester City somehow figure out, or if they figure out, if they've managed to win against Liverpool without Haaland and they play better than they've been playing for most of the season now, I'm gonna find it kind of ironic because it's gonna seem like, yeah, you have that guy that breaks goal scoring records and scores a ton of goals, but I think it actually hurts your play because he can't do much without him being serviced in the box. So we'll see what happens with that. Um, there was something else I wanted to talk about that I didn't get to. Um, apparently, apparently Bruno Fernandes was involved in a touchline bust-up with Everton legend Derek Mountfield at halftime yesterday. Mountfield playfully mimed elbowing United players as they walked onto the pitch, with Fernandes taking exception to the joke and having words with him. Uh, which I'm here for all that. That's, a little bit Roy Keane-ish in a certain sense. Take no shit from nobody. And you're the captain, you got to call it out. And sometimes you got to make a scene as the captain. You got to fucking, give your teammates kind of a kick of an ass. Like, hey, we're being, we're being made fun of here. We're being taken as a joke. Like, and we're not going to accept this. And like, step up and fight. So he's done that a couple times in a couple different situations. I know Bruno Fernandes is definitely a sore loser. He hates to lose. He can't stand it. And I think that sometimes affects him too much on the pitch. Um, you know, Even yesterday, I remember there was a period of time where after we scored the first goal, maybe it was even after the second goal, where we were on the edge of Everton box and Bruno was moving around with the ball, and you could tell he was looking to shoot it, and I'm like, don't shoot it. Like there's three players blocking your path. Like pass the ball. We have like 3 or 4 other people in and around the box. Like pass the ball. Try and find a hole and get it to them. But I think sometimes again he gets too tunnel vision and he feels like he needs to do things because one, he is the captain, and two, he doesn't want to drop points. He wants to win, and I think he loses his composure a little bit, and he starts doing crazy things on the pitch, like taking a 30-yard shot with 2 to 3 players literally blocking the line of the shot when he shouldn't be doing that. So, um, you know, but it's not good. But we do have an upcoming match against Ipswich. So, I mean, I don't know what's happened to this. They deleted this. Yeah, so that's not good news about Maz. Hopefully he's all right. Hopefully it's not too serious, but it's a knee injury, and I do have concerns because he obviously had some injury concerns prior to joining Manchester United and while he was here. I mean, we've seen him have minutes managed and him pulled off early when he's having good games. because they are concerned about his fitness and his injuries and stuff like that. And if Maz is out for the match on Wednesday, that's obviously going to hurt us, and we're gonna have to figure out what to do. But then I'm even more concerned because I hope what they don't do is do things like they've done in the past, where the players shouldn't necessarily be playing, but they're desperate because we're so down in depth and options that they actually make him play when in actuality you probably shouldn't have him playing, and then he suffers a more serious injury, and then like if he misses this game, let's say he's out for 1 week because of this, um, but you force him to play, and then he's out for 3 months. We can't afford that. We can't afford that right now. We literally cannot afford any more injuries, and I don't even know if that's possible to do from now until the end of the season. But we literally can't afford any sort of long term injuries. We can't afford to lose players for like 3 weeks plus. So I just don't know how we're actually going to survive the end of the season. Um, Bin guy says from the distance, making too many noises. Do this, do that, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know where we're gonna go with this. Again, I did say yesterday that I do think that one of the things that I'm just rewatching the Sonana goal, by the way. Oh no, it wasn't gonna go. It was somebody was complaining about the penalty shot. Again, I mean, it wasn't a penalty, so I don't know. These people are crazy. But oh, that's good. But we might need a new goalkeeper as well. Like I don't think Onana has been very good. He keeps making mistakes. It seems like it was a bad buy, the wrong buy. And this is why people say that like Eric Ten Hag has set us back like years and years and years. And I don't think it's necessarily all him, but I think the reason why they say that is they're saying that the signings that he made, um, the players that he asked for weren't actually very good, and the signings didn't actually pay off. I won't blame him for the amount of money spent because again, he doesn't have the say in if the club is paying 30 million or 50 million or 80 million for a player. He just asks for the player and identifies the player. But I think you can blame him for the players that he specifically wanted to buy, that haven't gone well. And I think Onana was one of them. Um, and I think it was weird. It was just weird. Like they tried to keep De Gea, they didn't want to keep De Gea. There was no They seemed unsure. Then it seemed rushed. Then all of a sudden he wanted Onana. And there was probably better options out there, but Onana was his goalkeeper at Ajax, and he knew Onana. And he kind of went down this route of getting players that he's worked with in the past because I guess he trusted them, and he already knew what they were about, and maybe he was trying to minimize risk, which was which is who he was as a person, as a manager. He was a person that he was not a risk taker. He was a calculated person. He was a person that relied heavily on statistics, data. Um, if he was to take a risk, it had everything to do with numbers. He wasn't, somebody that was necessarily a gambler. He wasn't like Sir Alex, who was literally just a gambling. Well, he was a gambling addict, but he was somebody that certainly took risks. And it didn't have to do with numbers or data. He just took the risk that he felt like he wanted to take. And Ten Hag was very much the opposite of that, and we've seen that from his transfer policies, player selections, the way he played, the way he set up the team, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I think how do you do that? Because a goalkeeper is not really a position that is. I don't even think it's necessarily easy to do deals on that. There's many teams that they have their starting goalkeeper. How do you pry that goalkeeper out of there? You got to pay a good amount of money. And then somebody like Onana, like you want to move Onana on. Well, somebody needs a goalkeeper. First of all, and they then have to have the money for it. I feel like it's one of those positions that aren't really that easy to move on. But I don't even know if they're gonna do anything like that because we have so many other positions that we need to take care of that I don't even think that they're gonna be concerned about the goalkeeping position because we need a striker, we need wing backs, whether they're wingers or somebody a little bit more like Dorgu, who's like an attacking wing back naturally. We need midfielders of all kind. You know, we need more tens. More. We need more like somebody to replace Casemiro, Ericsson, Mount, all sorts of things like that. So what do you? How can we just go back in on a goalkeeper? I think the goalkeeper position is going to take a very back seat to everything else. So um it is definitely an issue. It is definitely a problem. So um let me see if there's any other news. I do have to get off soon. Um I'll be in the next couple minutes because I have to go finish doing what I got to be doing. So um but you know what? I'm reading something about Aaron Wan-Bissaka here, and Wan-Bissaka has been doing very good attacking wise at West Ham, and it was something that he was heavily criticized at Manchester United for. That people spoke that about his ability that he wasn't able to do it, and he wasn't good enough at it. But I'm reading here that only one defender who is at Nori has completed more dribbles in the league this season. He gave Calafiori a horrible time yesterday, and he's performing very well. So sometimes I think the fan base also has to admit, which they don't, because they like to do revisionism, and they try to pretend like they weren't the ones that were asking for these things, but there was many people that they came for De Gea's head, and they said that we needed a ball playing goalkeeper, and we got rid of De Gea, and we got a ball playing goalkeeper, and now those same people hate Andre Onana, and they want him sold, and they say he's our worst goalkeeper, but they don't admit that they were wrong for selling De Gea. They double down and they say De Gea was shit and he had to go, but they also now say that Onana is shit. Well, you asked for this and you were wrong, and you don't admit that you were wrong. And now this, something similar maybe with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, where they vilified him by saying that he was unable to do the attacking aspect, and it's what we needed. But he's doing it at West Ham, and he's doing a good job, and he's performing better in that area than literally 99% of the Premier League. And they attacked him for it, and they won't come out and say, well, we were wrong because he's doing very. I mean, some people will, but there's a lot of people out there that won't. Um, and they'll double down on it, and they'll revisionism, or they'll just completely flip flop it and say, "Oh, we should have never got rid of him." Then you go into like their social media, and they were literally advocating for him to be sold, and that they hated him, and how much shit they thought he was. So it's. Ray says Eric Ten Hag's biggest mistake of his career selling your goalie was Player of the Year. We do have Vitek, who is out on loan, Player of the Year more than once, right? Yeah, and maybe that's what happens, but I think I mean that's one of the things that they could look to do. It's not I don't know Vitek's ability. You guys like him very much. You talk about him a lot, and you believe in him. And fair play. I don't know. Um, but I think if they analyze it and they do think that he's good, one of the things they could actually do, which would actually maybe help our situation out, is Richard, what if they sell Onana and just bring in Vitek? We already have a goalkeeper. We have a couple. There's Biender. Now Biender can't use his feet to save his life, but he's a good shot stopper in the matches that he played recently. So there's Biender, there's Vitek, and there's somebody else as well. There's another goalkeeper that they say is decently good. So we have some options there. What if we promote one of them and use them, and we sell Onana, and we take the money for Onana, and then we reinvest it somewhere else, and maybe not necessarily buy a goalkeeper, but he can be one of those players that we deem isn't good enough for the squad. We sell him, we use the money, and we get another position instead of maybe a goalkeeper, and then we promote one of our other goalkeepers that we have. That's something that they could do, and then use the funds, like you're saying, and then use the funds. And I think that's something they should probably look into. I don't know if they're going to look into it because it sounds like it doesn't seem like it right now. There's nothing indicating that that's something that they're looking to do, and maybe they're just not smart enough to look into that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't necessarily blame Onana. Maybe they don't think that his saving abilities is necessarily a problem. Maybe they attribute it more to the team aspect. I don't know what their actual position is on Andre Onana, and if they would be willing to move him on if they think he's bad enough or not. So I think those things will be more evident when we get more to the end of the season. And maybe we'll get some surprises. I'm hoping that we do in terms of, moves that we make and things that we do, because um yeah, I think, with his feet, he's all right, but his sweeping, especially yesterday, like that is sweeping. Like he should have been out there to punch that ball, and he didn't do it. And he just sat there and kind of froze. And then there's many other times where, he didn't make the save. There's saves that you have to be making as a goalkeeper, and he doesn't make them. He's a little bit slow in reaction wise, and it's just it's not a complete package. It's not a complete package. It's fine to have a ball playing goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper still needs to be doing goalkeeper things and still needs to be able to make saves. And he's one that seems like he's very good with his feet, but his saving ability is not great. His sweeping ability is not that great. It's not, and that's a hindrance. And I kind of look at it as like what we really need is to take Onana and fusion him with Bayender to get Bayender's saving abilities, and then mix Onana's feet abilities, so that because Bayender doesn't have feet abilities, and we would have one complete goalkeeper who would be good all around at everything: shot stopping, sweeping, using his feet, playing out of the back. And we have two goalkeepers that are split. So and Richard says he still needs to make the saves, and he absolutely does. And obviously that's a little bit more important. Now, the problem is you can't have somebody like you can't have somebody necessarily like Binder either, because there was times in those matches where those balls that he kicked, I still believe and I still feel that we're very lucky that we never conceded from those, because they were terrible kicks. The balls went in very bad positions, went directly to the opposition, and we were high up the pitch and we were low on numbers. So I feel like if you do that against a higher class team with higher quality, they will punish us from there. So we can't necessarily do that either, because you can't have your goalkeeper kick the ball to a player on the opposing team inside your own half, and leave the team exposed. And he's done that multiple times. So I don't know where we move on that necessarily, um but yeah, and there's been I'm sure there's going to be more news later, but it's quite early for news and stuff like that. Lisandro, there's a picture of Lisandro in crutches at home. I believe it's with his mother. So yeah. But there hasn't been really too much news. It's been slow. It's a Sunday. More of the news will probably come out later today when I won't be around, or tomorrow. Um, but I am gonna get out of here because I got to take care of some things. It was good to talk to you guys. Many of our other community members obviously couldn't make it. The time was different and it was early. So it is what it is. But that's all right. We'll talk when we get back. Um, but it was good to hear from the ones that were able to come here, and we'll see what happens. There's a match on Wednesday. Um, I'll be away. Maybe I'll do a little maybe I'll try and record a pre-recorded video and put it out. Maybe I'll do like 10 minutes and give my thoughts and opinions and stuff like that, and I'll record it on my mobile phone. Maybe I'll do a couple pre-recorded stuff. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but if anything, you will obviously hear from me in about 2 weeks time when I come back. Maybe there'll be one or two surprises. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying there's always a possibility. I won't rule out anything. And Richard says, thanks, Eric. Enjoy your holiday. Stay safe and stay safe all. Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate it. And you stay safe as well. And I'm definitely going to be enjoying myself, and I'll definitely stay safe. I always do stay safe. I like my life very much. So I try to keep myself as safe as possible. But yeah, we'll speak when I get back, I guess. Everybody take care till then. Thank you. If you're watching this after, smash the like button if you want to help us out, and leave any comments under the video. Obviously, the comments help the video as well. So leave your thoughts, comments, anything we've spoken on, leave them down there. I'll respond to them maybe later when I'm in the airport or something like that. But yes, everybody take care. Thank you for the support. Thank you guys always. I'll miss you guys for the next 2 weeks, but yeah, we'll be back. And until then, everybody take care of yourselves and stay safe, and I'll see you when I get back. Be good, guys. Thank you once again. Appreciate all of you, and we'll speak